And away we go. It is the Nightcap, brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken, right here on BearcatJournal.com. You know the drill. www.galacticfriedchicken.com. Go to the website. They will bring it right to your front door, pretty much anywhere inside the 275 loop, or head down to Dayton, Kentucky. Tell them to pump it up, and you can save yourself 15% off of the Galactic goodness. It is out of this world. Hi, Aaron.
What up?
Whew, it's been a long night. It's one of those nights where there is a lot going on, and I can't tell you about it yet. But when I do, everybody's going to be very happy. So, table that information. That's going to make people freak out. Yeah, that's going to make people freak out. But it's been a good night on the Bearcat front behind the scenes. So, first off, New Heights tomorrow, if you have not heard, is moving inside to Fifth Third Arena. I am thrilled with that choice, not only because it's going to rain and thunderstorm and be nasty tomorrow, but I just think doing something like that in an indoor venue is going to be a lot more electric than doing it in a wide open 35,000 seat stadium on a Thursday night at 9:00.
It was a valiant effort to try and have it in the place where they were
Jason and Travis Kelce were forged in iron,
forged in the fire.
Right.
And let's be all the way honest. One of the biggest complaints about Nippert Stadium is their sound system. And now you're going to be in a place that is kind of praised for its sound system and acoustics and all of those things. So when you're doing an audio format, probably makes more sense to be in the place that is more acoustically ready to host an audio format. So I'm with you. I think it makes far more sense. It sucks that the weather is not going to be able to accommodate what they wanted to do. And as the two guys coming in, of course, they wanted to do something like that. But just it is what it is. Luckily, they have the venue to support this thing inside and not just losing ground because they had to call a last minute audible.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the weather forecast has been what it is for a week now. So this was going on behind the scenes long before today to make sure that the logistics and everything, could work. But I would advise get there kind of early. The Lumbaby games at 7, the podcast at 9. It's gonna be a fun day. We do. I can't give out too many details, but we do have I believe a little media scrum with Jason tomorrow where we'll get to chat with him. So look for that on the site, and then we'll be noting what's going on with the podcast and those activities on the message board throughout the evening. So stick with us tomorrow. It should be a heck of a lot of fun. I know there's a 13-year-old upstairs that is very excited about everything. So
I'm sure. Being that it's the guy that she thought she was named after and the guy that she's actually named after that are going to be there together. And one also happening to be dating her superstar idol. So
right.
Sure.
It's going to be a fun night. The other big news that came out today and kind of where we're probably going to go with the rest of this show, Sage Tolentino, redshirt freshman, enters the transfer portal today. Cincinnati went from having 4 guys right at around 7 feet to 1 in the matter of basically a week and a half. It's unfortunate. I really enjoyed Sage. Sage loved being a Bearcat.
Let's be honest. You're just going to miss the food.
Yeah. Dine in Hawaiian is that look, that's not they might not move. Dine in Hawaiian might still be around.
You're right.
I don't know. I can't, what if he goes to NKU or Miami or somewhere close and the family can stay and keep the business?
It makes sense.
It's one of the best food trucks in the city.
You're
the Musambi. I think that's how you say it. The Musambi. Did you ever have that? Have you ever had that?
I never actually got to make it to the food truck. I was always running late, driving 2.5 hours, and either had eaten on the
When that
way.
started, you were still here, I think, though.
Well, when that started, there was COVID happening. When I was
Yeah.
there, I lived in the city during COVID.
Yeah. But I hate it. I enjoyed those times in the past when guys worked their way up and you started to see them in their redshirt sophomore, their junior years. That is unfortunately probably mostly a thing of the past. Um, where you take on developmental guys, especially big guys, 7-footers. They take a little bit longer to grow into their body and grow into their skills. But look, Sage was an awesome kid. Sage committed on radio with me, back in June, I think, of 2020 or whatever. I think it was June of 2020 when COVID was
Something like
like
that.
going on. The family brought up a bunch of Hawaiian food that was unbelievable. I remember it because it was some kind of like bank holiday, so nobody was there. And they brought enough food to feed the entire building. And there was like 5 of us that just gorged ourselves on Hawaiian food that day. It was incredibly good. Of course, we paid for it all, and relax,
Right.
NCAA. But it was fantastic, and Sage committed on air, and I've had a great relationship with him ever since. He's a good kid. Like I just enjoy his presence. And it sucks that this is kind of the business side of things. But if you're Sage, I assume you want to play basketball. You're a basketball player.
Right.
So I hate it just in the overall sense of things. But if you're Sage looking at what's best for my future and my career, like what's best is getting on the court and playing basketball. And that was going to be a big ask in the Big 12 because it's a physical league.
Yeah.
And Sage is more of a finesse 7-footer.
This is kind of along the same lines as Vic in that these were 2 of the first 4 early guys for Wes with Vic.
Sage committed Brandon and
Oh,
Sean Dwyer. Or not Sage,
okay.
but Vic.
Yeah,
So
well,
Vic was
but Vic was a carryover though, and like
yes.
the only one left at this point from
Yeah.
the previous regime. So you're losing the first guy who was still with the team. I guess not the first guy, but the carryover that you had left on this team, and now one of your first
The
recruit.
first recruit. Yeah.
So it's just kind of weird seeing those bookends, I guess. Both gone at the same time, both from the same position. That you're now in pretty bad shape with just one guy at the 5.
Yeah, but at least it's your starter, and it's a proven like high level guy. So
Yeah.
you're not like a void at center, and you have to go
No.
like. So yeah, yes, it is not great to have one center on the roster in
No.
April.
No.
What we've talked about is it means they're going to have to get somebody that can play the 5. Like
Agree.
mandatory. You've got to get somebody that can play the 5 and either be the offensive yin to Aziz's yang or be a guy that can give you 10, 15 minutes a game and hope that they develop into the starter when Aziz graduates.
I mean, I'd go so far as to say I think you probably need 2 guys that can play at the 5. Only maybe a guy who's playing 4-5, but only because we've seen injuries not be kind.
Yeah, I do think, Aaron, you kind of have that guy with Tyler McKinley, but freshman, Big 12, it's a lot. It's a lot.
That's a break glass in case of emergency type situation. I don't think that you want to pencil Tyler in as your backup.
15, 20 minutes a game at the 5. Like, yeah.
Right.
And I think Tyler would like the opportunity to play some 4 as well, because it's probably his more natural position. If he's the backup 5, you're the backup 5. 4 is not really playing into the equation. So nope. I agree with you there. Absolutely.
So I don't know. I guess the other thing with Sage, and we mentioned how he was the first recruit. He was recruited to the American, not to the
Yes.
Big 12. So I think this kind of shows that there is certainly a delineation between the type of guys that you were recruiting that were going to be able to play and develop and grow in the American, and guys that are going to play and develop and grow in the Big 12. It's
Yes.
not the same caliber player, and I think that we've seen kind of some of that in the guys that they're recruiting. We've seen them taking nothing but big swings. They're not going after your, guy number 198, guy number 254, or anything like that in the rankings. They're taking big swings, and I think that you're going to see more and more of this with any of your teams that are in these upper echelon conferences. Is there, you don't have time to develop a guy and see what happens. You're essentially going after your really good freshman, or you're letting another program, and we've talked at different points throughout the years since this has started happening, but you're going to see other programs develop your players for you, and then you go and pluck those guys. And it's nice that Cincinnati's not really going to be one of those teams that is going to happen. That's going to happen to all that often.
Yeah, I think, one important thing that we are starting to see, Aaron, is guys do want to stay for the most part and
Right.
play for Wes. Like,
Looking at
you are
how
not
long
seeing,
it took Sage. Yeah.
You are
I
not
don't think he
seeing
wanted
mass
to.
exodus. So going forward, that's a good. Now, are there going to be years where, two guys that you didn't expect enter the transfer portal? Absolutely. That's going to happen to everybody. But
Right.
what you want over time is it to average out to you are able to keep and develop and trust your guys. But there is absolutely something to what you're saying, Aaron, in terms of if it's not a 4-star, if it's not somebody with big upside and potentially the ability to help you early, you don't have to recruit them anymore. You don't have to stash guys that you see and say, man, in 2 or 3 years, he's going to be really good. Instead, that kid goes down a level for 2 or 3 years, and then you're in the group to get him when he's a junior and got 2 years left and is produced already at the Division I level.
Has experience and
Yeah.
in-game experience at the collegiate
Yeah.
level, as opposed to just sitting on the bench and getting to be your scout team, or
Right.
seeing garbage time minutes.
I mean, one of the names we were talking about before the show in our elaborate and extensive pre-show meeting, a guy like Trey Scott, where Trey was behind, he redshirted, and then for 2 years, he was behind Gary. And
Right.
Gary Clark was a 32 to 35 minute a night guy. He was not a guy that you had to take out very often. And Trey's development was steady, but I think it's fair to say like a little slow in those 2 years. Like, people wanted more from Trey his redshirt freshman and sophomore year. And then
You
there
didn't
was
get a
some
glimpse.
concern.
You didn't get a glimpse of who he ended up being in those first 2 years. Certainly not.
Right. There was a lot of concern going into his junior year, his redshirt junior year, year 4. Is this guy ready to take over for Gary Clark? Ultimately, the answer was, oh, yeah. Yeah. But at the time,
Right.
it was fair to look at what he had done and some of the struggles he had as he started to get onto the court and project. Now, what if he was in a situation where he went somewhere where he got to play a ton as a young guy? How much faster would that have accelerated his development? And would he have been more ready? So there's like 6 of one, half dozen of the other. There's the weighted scale that says you can't do this anymore. And also there's a weighted scale that says, well, sometimes it's worth it. And the guy comes out on the other side and becomes a guy that, fans are still talking about 5, 6, 10 years after they graduate. And that's what Trey ended up becoming.
Guys that you're hoping to see in the TBT, right?
Right. So it's certainly a changing landscape. It's certainly a changing situation. Like, Aaron, I don't know how much you know about this or we've talked about it, but like, they changed the entire recruiting calendar Coaches used to be out on the road in April at AAU events. Like this coming weekend, and then the next weekend, I would have been out on the road doing AAU events with coaches out on the road. Coaches stopped going because of the transfer portal, because they were hosting visits, and they were organizing visits, and everybody was in the war room talking to kids and calling transfer prospects. And you would go to these events, and they used to be wall to wall with coaches everywhere. And you would go, and there would be like 20 open seats. Like, we used to not even be allowed to like look at the seats because they were full, right? Like, if you thought about sitting there, the security would be like, no. And then 1 second later, a coach would come in and sit down in the spot that you wanted to sit in. Last year, sit wherever you want. Year before that, pretty much sit wherever you want. They had to change the entire calendar because the transfer portal changed everything. So that should tell you how high school recruiting has kind of done this.
Well, yeah, who's going to be able to contribute to your team? I mean, just in general, I think it's fair to make this generalization, but who's going to contribute to your team more efficiently? A incoming high school freshman, or a guy who's got some skin in the game? Only makes sense.
Exactly. So, yeah. All right, that's going to wrap it up. I will see everybody. Stop and say hi tomorrow if you see me. We'll be in full force at the spring game on Saturday. So there you go. That's the nightcap, brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken, right here on BearcatJournal.com.
See ya.